Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the channel on YouTube for all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, the video, we're going to be looking at the mercato and how it's been going on all around Europe, and specifically looking at, our direct rivals in the Champions League. What have they been doing? Are they getting stronger? Should we be worried? And so I'll do a thing where I'll go through who I think are the top 8 teams in Europe right now, apart from us. So Real Madrid, Barcelona in Spain, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City in England, Bayern Munich in Germany, and Inter Milan, or finalist of the last Champions League, who we beat in Munich for Italy. I think that should give us a good sense of, the top teams in Europe, where are the big moves, who are the ones who are working well, what are the gaps that still remain in those teams, and who we can expect to be our strongest rival in the Champions League in the coming season. And I rank them on a scale going from 1 Luis Enrique to 3 Luis Enrique. Because there's nothing better than Luis Enrique's in the world of football right now, and so you want to have as many Luis Enrique's in your team as we can, and even one can make a big difference for you. So let's just jump right in, and I think we'll start with our finalists from last year, Inter Milan. I think they're one of the teams that's done the least amount of business in this mercato window. They bought the right back from Marseille to strengthen their team, Luis Enrique, another Luis Enrique. But apart from that, we haven't seen much action from them. They've been talking about young defenders in Italy. They've been talking about a few things. And I'm a bit surprised because I know after the Champions League final, Lautaro Martinez came out and said, they need players who are in it to win, who are committed to Inter. And it really did, with the coach leaving as well, it really did give me the sense that they were at the end of an era and that they really needed to look at a rebuild, or at least they really needed to look at how they could add value to this team. And so far, I don't think they've done that this window, honestly. And so right now, I'll just give them 1 Luis Enrique for this window. There's still time for them, but they really need to get moving if they want to get anywhere close to where they were last season. Second one, Man City. And Man City is really the opposite of Inter Milan. They didn't go very far in the Champions League last season. They did have a rebuild on their end, but for them, they did their work early. And it actually started in December of last year, where they brought in Marmouche, they brought in Kusanov from Lens. And for this summer, they did all of their business before the club's World Cup, with, among other, Cherki, who I put on the screen. But also Reinders. So they had that business. They did bring in a few players. They did lose some key ones as well. So, De Bruyne has left the club, which is really end of an era for Man City. And I think after last season, the sense that I got from Man City last season was that they had twin troubles going on. The ones that most people were talking about was that physically they were nowhere close to where they were the year before, and they really were struggling to bring that impact into a game. And you could see it because they were getting scored on in the last 15 minutes of games. So you can see that where physically there was struggle. But I think at the same time, and I'll give kudos to this on Luis Enrique, is that he managed to make Pep Guardiola a little bit old school. And I think the Pep Guardiola part of the game felt a little bit dated last season versus what Luis Enrique put in place. And true to form, it's something that we've heard from Man City during the Club World Cup, is that they were like back. Guardiola was really pushing for the players to be more active in pressing when they lose the ball. He was really trying to get the ball back more faster than what they had in the past, and essentially looking at PSG and looking at the work that Luis Enrique has done as an example of where they need to go as a team. Whether they're going to get there, I think it's still an open question. I think in the Club World Cup, ultimately, they had a very disappointing run. And we were expecting more for them, even with their new players. So still a lot of work ahead for them. And I think personally, like, I rank the players at their peak, but I really do wonder if right now they're at the levels of the Man City that we've seen in the past. And, you know, if you think of a Kevin De Bruyne, if you think of Haaland, if you think of all those guys, Cherki is very good, but he's not Kevin De Bruyne. And, like, realistically, it's going to be like 2-3 years before he can get to that level in my mind. So is it enough? Is it, like, high quality enough? I give them one Luis Enrique. I think they have a lot of work ahead of them. So we'll see how that goes. Next one, Bayern Munich, another big European team. And I think this one was a bit difficult for me because I think they do have a more solid team already in place than what we've seen last season of Man City. And Inter Milan obviously has done very well last season, but I think, like, and they did eliminate Bayern Munich in the Champions League. But if I still had to pick one of the two teams right now, I'd probably pick Bayern Munich. So yeah, hard one. But yeah, Bayern Munich this window has been really complicated for them. They did a bit of business early on, bringing in Ta in central defense, and bringing in, like, a young midfielder as well, which is good for them. But then they went on, like, mercato safari trying to find a left winger to take the spot of Coman. And I think, like, now we're hearing that after a long search, they're finally closing in on Luis Diaz of Liverpool, who they might bring on board. And I think that's, you know, objectively a very strong addition to their team. But I do feel like they still have a few gaps in their teams. In defense, there's still question marks about Upamecano and whether he's going to extend, whether he's going to stay, what he's going to do to the dressing room. Ta, like, he's a good defender. Is he, like, world-class defender? I'm not quite sure just yet. And their fullbacks, I remember the game against Paris, like, you know, I think they played Leimer on the left, like, good players, but, you know, when you look at us and we've got Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, like, just literally 3 steps above. And in central midfield, like, they do have good players, but also, like, maybe not quite at that top level. So I see a few gaps on their teams that they haven't filled just yet. There's still time to do business, but yeah, right now I'll give them a Luis Enrique and a half, a little bit of a second Luis Enrique, and that's, you know, taking into account the fact that they're going to be closing Luis Diaz, who I think is an exciting player to have them join. Next one, Real Madrid. Big one. Real Madrid also did a lot of business up front in this transfer window, and even before the transfer window. And I think for them, the biggest move was on the bench, with Xabi Alonso coming in and replacing Carlo Ancelotti. And we're hoping that leads... Well, they're hoping, I'm not really hoping, but they're hoping that leads to a really big change in terms of how the team plays, and, you know, how the different superstars on the team play together, join forces, and kind of play for one another. Is that going to happen? I have my doubts. That said, they did recruit intelligently in places. So I think Dean Huijsen in central defense is a very good buy. I think Maston Tuono that they got from us is a really promising player. I think they overpaid for him, but, you know, whatever. So I do think they've got those things. Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, obviously is a very well-known player and one of the top players at his position. I don't rank him as much because I do think that in a Real Madrid squad that's already, like, really tactically tilting towards the offense, they don't need their fullback to be as offensive as that. And I think Trent Alexander-Arnold, typically, like, his qualities are in the opposing half and not so much in defending. So that's where I'm a little bit iffy about this one, but, you know, it could work. Supposedly it fits the playing style of Gabi Alonso. So that could be a plus, but we'll have to see on this one. And then they do have a lot of youngsters that they picked up in previous season, a la Arda Güler, coming out of their academy, with Gonzalo Ramos, or like the youngsters strikers that came out during the Club World Cup. So all of that is very exciting. But at the same time, the big question for Real Madrid and the big moves are not on the way in, they're on the way out. And how are they going to find some sort of balance in their offensive line? And we started the window saying Rodrigo might be leaving, the club was open to selling him, but no real offer came for him so far. I think right now, like Tottenham seems to be the only one who's really getting into it. So that's not great. We are hearing a lot right now that Vini Jr. is not really, the discussions for his contract extensions aren't really going well, and that he could be leaving as well if there's a good offer for him. Mbappe is here, obviously, but is he going to play up front? Is he going to play a little bit on the left? Who's going to be around him? I think there's a lot of questions. And honestly, like when I see the game against PSG in the Club World Cup, man, do they have a lot of work ahead of them. So couple of good moves, couple of really like not so great ones. So I'll also give them a Luis Enrique and a half. And I think Real fans should cross their fingers that Xabi Alonso didn't leave his magic wand in Germany. Next one, Chelsea. Chelsea, as always, did a lot of business. They did it before the Club World Cup, for the most part, but they're still active right now. They've got a squad of 73 players. I mean, I'm barely exaggerating at this point. It's just ridiculous how many people they've got under contract. They did some really interesting one. I hate to admit, but Joao Pedro in offense is really interesting. The Lap I don't rate as strongly, but it doesn't look like he might be a starter for them. So that's like really strong. They've got, we've seen the quality of their midfield is really, really high, and it's young players who are developing as well. Now they're talking about bringing in Xavi Simons. They're talking about potentially getting in the race for Donnarumma if he leaves PSG. Which could be very, very additive to their squad. They're also looking at Hato from Ajax, who's this super promising left back who can also play in central defense. And I think it does speak to a team that also knows where it can still improve, which is really in defense and with goalkeeper. And so hopefully they can do that and kind of take it to the next level. Personally, I'll be very honest, and I know there's lots of Chelsea fans watching this channel since the Club World Cup. I really rank them. I think they're a very, very strong team, and obviously we've seen that firsthand with PSG. I really don't see how it can work to have so many players under contract, and especially so many young ones. And how do they not get to a point where, some of them aren't going to play that much, they're going to get frustrated, and they're early in their career, so they're it's career destroying potentially. So how does that not create trouble in the dressing room? How does that not create conflict? They're going to need their manager to be extremely, extremely, extremely strong in management, and I think tactically is very strong. So we'll have to see the different facets of the manager role from him. But yeah, I very much question that, because I think otherwise they've got a very, very young, cohesive, coherent, and talented squad that can really go places in the year ahead. So I give them to Luis Enrique, and I think we'll have to see how they close the mercato. But yeah, to Luis Enrique for now. Next one, Arsenal. Arsenal is interesting. They're also one of the teams who had obviously the basis of a very strong team last season. They went all the way to semi-final of the Champions League, where we eliminated them. They were second in the EPL. And I think Arsenal, from my perspective, I really appreciate the fact that out of all of the teams, they're probably the one who zeroed in on the places where they needed to improve the most. They went for a big number 9 in Gyökeres. They went for another midfielder in Zubimendi. They went for a left winger with Mukiele, with Madueke. And yes, they had a depth in defense with Christian Mosquera. I think there's still a little bit of space in terms of fullback, but honestly, it's very, very well thought out, very well planned out, and it's really additive to their team. The question mark that I have, and that's really a little bit nitpicky at this point, is whether the players that they pick really have the quality to be at a Champions League winning level, at a EPL winning level, really at the highest level of the game for 10 months. I think, a player like Madueke that they got from Chelsea is very, very exciting and very talented, but he hasn't really proven over the long term that he can be at that level. Same with Gyökeres. He had a fantastic couple of seasons in Portugal, but when he was in England last, it didn't really work that well for him. So is he going to be able to make that step change? Mosquera is still very young, but I think it's more one for the future than one for right now. But so there's that question mark in me of is it they're potentially excellent additions, and they make a lot of sense in terms of the team and the tactics, but they really need to prove and they really need to achieve, and that's something that we'll see this season. And so for Arsenal, I also give to Luis Enrique right now in recognition of that. It's kind of too bad as well. I think for them, they missed they worked well. But at the same time, they missed the boat on Isaac, and I think if they had gotten on to Isaac instead of signing Gyökeres, and let's say in a parallel universe they recruit Isaac to be their number 9, man, that would be strong. That would be strong. So yeah, there was that little margin of improvement, and when I'm talking about players who've played regularly and showed top performance at that level before. Next one, Liverpool, and the thing that completes the English part of the mercato madness, which has been absolutely crazy in England this year. Liverpool did a lot of business. They brought in Ekitike for 95 million. They brought in new fullbacks on the right and on the left. They brought in Wirtz, this superstar player from Germany, for 150 million. And now they're looking at Isaac, Alexander Isaac from Newcastle to really top that off. What a mercato. I mean, I think they spent already 300 million euro. So it's a big one, a big rebuild for them, and for a team that already won the Premier League last year, who finished on top of the group phase of the Champions League last year, and so who was already really within the top 2, 3, 4 teams in Europe. Wow! So yeah, very, very impressive. I think for me, the caveat that I would have is really with the guy on screen, Ekitike, and I think obviously as PSG fan, we keep a not so great view of the player. I think he's had a very, very good season and a half in Germany, where he's really put his career back on the rail and delivered very exciting performances. But at the same time, 95 million for a player who's not even in the French national team, who's only had really one great season in Germany of all places, which we know is a striker-friendly territory. I think that's honestly very much overpaying. And if they get Isaac on top of it, what happens? I hear people say they're going to play Ekitike on the left wing, which makes zero sense to me, and I don't think Ekitike is the player for it. So either that or they need to spend another Rodrigo, for example, or someone like this to cover their left wing. I don't know. It seems like that part wasn't so planned out. I think obviously Isaac becoming available is a bit of a surprise and not really something that was true earlier in the mercato window. But I think that part of it, we'll have to see how Mercato concludes, but I'm a little bit iffy about it. And I think same thing that I said for Arsenal as well. I think for the players that they recruited in defense, we'll have to see how they adapt to that step change of being in a Premier League winning, potentially Champions League winning team, and really like get to those higher reaches of the game. Especially the one on the left who's coming from Bournemouth. I forget his name. He's like a really good player, but is he going to be at that level? Like that's a big step change, and Anfield can be a very unforgiving place as well. So we'll see. I give them 2.5 Luis Enrique. I think they're going to be up there. Ultimately, they did drop a lot of money, but they did it in a pretty smart way with potentially very like good players. And I mean, if they close the window having Wirtz and Isaac playing for the Reds, that's a big partnership, and one that's going to be really hard for all of the defenses in England and in Europe. So we'll see. But yeah, 2.5 for now. And last one, I'll close off with this, Barcelona, who was probably, alongside with PSG, the most exciting team in Europe last year under Hansi Flick, in terms of the games they were producing, in terms of the skills of the player. I hate to say, because I think Barcelona and PSG were not the best friends by any means. And for me, it's one of the, I used to like the team a lot, but I've kind of lost my friendliness to them, I guess, in a way. But yeah, they did some work. They were smart. They're very much constrained by what they can do financially. And so realistically, they cannot afford to drop 300 million like Liverpool. They cannot afford to drop 100 million even. They need to pinch pennies and count every dollar that they spent. And I think, what they did in bringing in Rashford, who, I don't think he's Mbappe by any means. I don't think he's really at the top level. I think he's probably a tier 2 kind of player. But I think to give some depth to their line of attack, someone who can allow Rafinha to rest once in a while, someone who can cover for Lewandowski once in a while, someone who was very, very keen to join Barcelona. I think it's a move that makes a lot of sense and that is not massively expensive for them. And then they brought in a new goalkeeper, which for them is also going to solve what was one of their issues within their squad last year between Chesney and the former goalkeepers that they have. There wasn't really a lot of clarity on who was number one, and it led to some resentment as well. So now, hopefully, they brought in very, very talented new goalkeeper in Garcia, and so that should put this one to bed and really position them well. The only thing remaining now is there's some shuffles in central defense, but yeah, given where they were and how they did last year, and given how they did this mercato, yeah, I expect they're going to be again a really big rival in Europe and really on top in Spain as well. And so for that, I give them 2.5 Luis Enriquez, but they really cannot have any because we're keeping all of him in Paris and he's not going back to Barcelona. But so yeah, that's what I had for you guys. There's still 1 month of mercato to go on, so there will still be a lot of moves. But I think right now it's great to see how the different teams are working. Honestly, it's funny because we haven't had really much of anything happening in Paris. But at the same time, our starting 11 is ended the year at such a high level, and is looking so strong right now. And we've got such talented young players who are only going to get better with an additional year. That I'm not too stressed because I ultimately, there's none of those teams where I would give them just plain 3 Luis Enrique and say yeah, now you might be better than us. I think even the one who performed best, the Liverpools and Barcelona of the world, I still say we can look at them eye to eye and really fight on equal terms. And that's before we had any addition. So if we bring in Zabarni, if we bring in some additional firepower up front, if we staff up a little bit, we don't need a lot. But just with a little bit, yeah, I could see us still having a very good season, and that's really very much what I'm hoping for. So anyway, that was it for me today. Please let me know what you thought of this video in the comment, and who you think is going to be your biggest rival in Europe this year. Please leave a like to this video. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell. Please do all of those things. And I'll be back tomorrow for more PSG. And don't forget, ici c'est Paris!